If you ask a guy why he's there, and if he says murder,
I couldn't hear you.
that's nothing.
Yeah.
Because the majority of the lifers are in there.
Very much.
You know, and then you come out here and you say the word murder. And then people shy off and don't want to be around you. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what is your problem?
You're still on.
You know.
But see, what that will cause you to do is to put on a mask.
Right.
It will cause some people, right, it will cause some people to put on a mask at that point because they want to feel accepted or whatever by, and don't want to be rejected. But there's something I was thinking too that I wanted to say about that situation too, is this. It's not just people in prison. When you talk about the insecurity and people putting on a mask.
Noreen?
Yes.
Noreen, when you're even in a marriage, I guess you want to make your wife feel like you're a tough guy, and but you don't want to show your emotions when you're married. Even you do this even when you're growing up as a child. You want to be the tough guy that your parents want you to be. You don't want to see you don't want them to see you as a kid crying or begging for something or wanting something all the time. A needy person. You want to be kind of tough and upstanding. Like me, when I was growing up, I started drinking very early. I wanted to be tough, so I grew up with that tough attitude shot. When somebody made me mad, I got even with them. I either stabbed them with a knife, or I did a pitchfork, or I shot my brother and my sister with a BB rifle. And I did this out of spite because I wasn't feeling needy. I wanted this, I wanted that, and I wanted to be recognized. So
and that recognition is a real thing. People do all sorts of things. If you don't give children the proper attention, they will begin to, if the only attention you give them is when they're misbehaving, they will misbehave more because they need to have that attention. They need to be seen, right? But what I was going to say too is that people put on a mask for all kinds of reasons and to cover insecurities. One of the things that some of the most prolific, well-known actors in the world are painfully, incredibly shy.
Very.
So shy that if you put them in a room, they wouldn't even talk unless there was a reason to talk. And it's because, and what happens is going out to perform gives them a mask to hide behind. They can express what they might otherwise feel because now they have a mask, they have a character to hide behind to express what it is. And the idea of doing this as a way to hide emotions, because when you talked about being in prison, and I think it was so profound what you said is that if you could function like a robot, and what do you say, put your emotions on the shelf, right? When you do that in order to survive, there's a circumstance, this is a situation. If this happens, this is what you do, and you don't have no conscience about those things. Well, what happens is over time, like you said, something changes. And what happens is when you put your emotions on the shelf as a matter of practice and as a matter of function consistently, when you come home, it is very difficult to just turn it back on. Sure. So what happens is people come home and have been programmed to put that mask on, and they don't
even know when it comes on,
and don't know when it comes on and comes off. And so now their program is the same thing. This is what I do. When this come, when I start feeling that butterfly in my stomach, I shut that off, or I do this. Right. Well, the people at home, we don't know what that is. We don't know that that's what happened. But I did have a friend who was hurt so many times from her childhood, emotionally with her family members and the men in her lives and men in her life and everything, that she literally decided that she wasn't going to feel pain anymore. But what I also noticed was she couldn't engage in pleasure either.
No, because
She couldn't, she didn't want to be involved in pain, so she could not receive pleasure. Because it's the opposite side of the same coin. It's part of the same cycle. Pain and pleasure, they go together, and you can't remove them. So when you start, so when you start cutting off one, and like, okay, so I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and in the winter times, and you know this as a plumber, you might not have lived nowhere where the pipes froze though. But when pipes freeze, when you get ready to try to unfreeze them, you don't just blast the water. What'll happen?
Bust the pipe.
You bust the pipes, right? So you got to do that a little bit at a time, and turning those emotions back on. You got to do that a little bit at a time.
First, once again, you better about the pipe situation.
The same way as you do as a window.
One second, Otis.
When you in a cold environment like that, you talking about the pipe. First thing you have to do is wrap the pipe. See what I'm saying? So what that is? That's something that's wrapping like a mask.
And then you gotta drip. You gotta put a little drip on it.
Right then, to start behind your different emotions you're trying to hide behind. Okay, you go turn the water on real fast. You gotta turn on slow. Real slow. That's just like the masses are in people's real lives.
Right.
But they don't see that because they so used to living behind the mask.
Because now they think the mask is them.
Yeah, because that's not.
Well,
that's not
you know
true.
what messed up? You spend most of your life in prison. And like I told you, I never wanted to get married because I knew I was going to be in prison. But like I get here an hour early, just about every time. And I like to watch the people walk. I like to watch the people who have their kids with them and they're holding their hands. And I think that's something I missed and I could never get back because of my age, you know, and I'll never have a family. And when I die, I'm the end of the line in my namesake. And I think, you know, that's crappy, but it is what it is.
Right, because you made a choice based on what you felt was the right thing to do at the time, because you didn't want to leave a family out here on their own. And so there's no, you know, I think it's really important to say that there's no right answer to that, because that was you knew that you weren't going to be there. You knew based on your behavior, you had no intention to stop doing what you were going to do. And so you knew the lifestyle you were living was not conducive to you being a father and a husband, and you didn't want to leave them on the street alone. So there is a trade-off, but it's also unintended consequences of our behavior. Those are the things that we have to, with my friend saying, but wait, with my friend saying, I'm not going to feel pain anymore.
Right.
She didn't intend to cut off pleasure.
No, she didn't.
She didn't intend that. It was an unintended consequence. But Otis, you wanted to say something a minute ago.
I'm saying it's like having a Band-Aid. You got to pull a Band-Aid off slow before you can, before it starts to heal.
Yeah, so you don't pull off the scab.
Yeah, that's right.
And any healing that would have started taking place, you set it back by trying to do it too fast.
Okay, I want to come back to
and
when she
yes,
gets finished.
yes, and then go ahead. You wanted to say something, Carlos?
Yeah, I just want to say, going back to the topic of wearing the mask. I used to go to groups. I started going to groups in 2008, but I always had that mask. You know, I was doing good, but I was still playing that little tough guy. You know, or you ain't gonna punk me just because I go to groups.
Wow.
Until 2015, when I ran into he was younger than me. We were from the same gang, and he told me, because I used to go by my moniker name still. He's like, hey, you just gotta take that mask off. And I told him, what do you mean? So I'm like, yeah, that nickname, you gotta let that go. Take it off. Let everybody know who you really are. And I was scared. I was scared to let people know who I was. I was scared, you know.
And the thing of it is that and the reason you were afraid is because for so long, whatever the moniker was served you well. It served to allow you to hide from the insecurities. It served to allow you to have something to hide behind when you're insecure and when you were afraid. And it gave you a sense of belonging and a sense of identity that to let that go meant to potentially let all of those things go. But the beauty of it is what you found is you're actually much stronger than you thought you were.
Right. And I mean, I felt in the yard alone. Once people started calling me by my name because they call me by my moniker. I said, you know what, just call me Carlos. Like, my name is Carlos. And I felt scared, to tell you the truth, you know? I felt
But you know,
scared
it's
and
a trip too, because a whole lot of them probably didn't even, they was like, Carlos, who was that? You know what I'm saying? That, you know, like, who was that? You know what I mean? But you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just want to go back to, we all define family differently, though. I always tell people, as long as I'm living, I have an opportunity to have a family. Have an opportunity to be married, have an opportunity to have children. Now, you can't birth any children because of your age, right? But that doesn't mean, though, that you can't father children. That doesn't mean that you can't find a woman and fall in love and her children or grandchildren.
Yeah, but you know what? At my age, I don't believe that. I believe you can have good friendships, but mine having a life like I see out here and different people, I'll never get that. And I know I'll never get it. And when I watch TV, I have a hard time walking. And I watch people walk, run, and I think, I screwed all that off. All the time I was in prison, I was a plumber and I was a mercy plumber. And I worked my ass off all the time I was in prison. Because of me not being able to read, plumbing was my thing. I taught my bosses stuff about plumbing. If we had a project, I would think about it. I would dream about it. And usually I'm right. Mm-hmm. And when my boss was the head plumber, and when they went to do a job that they wanted something done, like putting toilets on the yard and stuff like that, they usually take all the free staff get together. Well, my boss used to take me and he'll say, we got to put a toilet next to that cabinet. And I look at that cabinet and I know where the pipes are. And I tell them, no, we need to put it here because it's easier. We get a better connection. And he would tell me, get the parts. Mm-hmm. It was always that answer, get the parts. And it made me feel good because he respected my opinion. And he knew that I'd get the parts.
And what I have to say right there, I want you to understand, I want everybody listening to understand what he was just saying. There was something that he couldn't do, but then there was something he could do. Very well. And what that did, he did it very well. And what that did is that produced an acknowledgement of him and his intellect and his skill. And it gave him a sense of identity. Okay. And when we're talking about a mask, the reason the mask becomes so important is because we're looking for a sense of identity. What the moniker gave you, Carlos, was a sense of identity, right? It gave you a sense of identity of what you wanted it to be. And we have to understand, that's why I say it's very important what we say to children, what we teach them, what we say to ourselves about ourselves, is because if we're not conscious of, careful of what we say to ourselves, we can self-sabotage our own success. Success can come at us and opportunities come and we sabotage them because of what we believe about ourselves. So it becomes really important to be careful what we say. And that sense of identity, again, these different types of masks become what people put on, not just in prison to survive prison. People put these people on every day on the street. Every day you're going to meet these people. We used to always have this saying that if you in a crowd and somebody loud talking and it sounds like it's getting ready to go down, the one you need to worry about is not the one yapping. No. That's the one that ain't going to bust a grape in the fruit fight.
Quiet one.
That is the one in the corner, that one over there that ain't saying nothing. That's the one you better give. You got 4 hours, you better get you 2 more, because you're gonna need to be paying attention to them. Because look at here, see, that's the one. Listen, this is the thing, and I've said this before, and this is not glorifying any of this. I don't want anybody to think that we glorifying this, but what I can tell you is I've known more than one person in my lifetime that their job was an assassin. Okay. These are the people, though, that would blend into the room. You wouldn't even know they was there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't even know they was in the room. Like, one of them, he was just so gorgeous, though. That was the only thing about him. He was tall and fine and shit. And of course, you're like, whoa, right? But if it wasn't for that, he would never draw attention to himself. But if you think about the nature of their job, you got to be able to blend in. You got to be able to go get in and get out. You can't be somebody that's constantly bringing attention. You don't want nobody to remember you. That is a skill you had to have as an assassin. That was a required skill. Just like you had to know how to use a pipe wrench to be a plumber. Right. With a person who does that for a living, they got to have that skill. And so again, like you say, it wasn't the one yapping. The one doing all the talking ain't gonna do nothing. You don't have to worry about them. Chances are, if they in a room by themselves, they're not gonna say nothing to you. They're not gonna do nothing. It's the one that's quiet, because that person is the one assessing how to do the damage.
I never figured out, you know, they talk about, like you were right then, assassin, right? And I always thought and believed that if I had to kill you, I'd walk up and knock on your door, and when you answered, I'd shoot you, get back in my car and leave. That most people who come from another state and kill somebody and leave, they're not going to get them. Mm-hmm. It's the local person that stays. You take that person that nobody knows, he has nothing to do with you, he's got no connection, come to your door, shoot you, gets in his car, get back to the plane, and gone. You know, that's.
Well, and again, it's the concept that there's anonymity, and so again, not being able to identify who that person is. But the point being is that these are the people. It's always the one that's the quiet one. It's not the one doing all the talking. So like this tough guy, loud mouth guy, always drawing attention to themselves. They're putting that on to hide the fact that they scared as hell. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
they're the ones.
I told you before, most of the guys I knew inside that hit for different gangs, their gang was like you said, they're quiet, they're not big, but they could ease up on you because you don't. Right. You don't think they're dangerous. And they're the most dangerous people I know, you know, and the most friendly.
Well, because guess what?
And most shot callers,
the good guy here, right? This good guy, the nice guy, right? Because listen, don't think that they don't have multiple masks to put on. You see what I'm saying? In Halloween, you know, it's like Halloween. They go in and out of these masks at any given moment. You see what I'm saying?
Right in front of you.
Right. But like you say, right in front of your face, it literally can happen in a moment. And what it is the ability to do that based on the circumstance, because it's transactional. It's transactional. This is the person that I believe this person wants to see at this time. And this is in order for me to get what I want, or to be in the position of power that I think I need to be in now, I need to put on this particular person. This is who I think this person will respond to, or this is what I think this situation is going to bring about. But the reality is that none of that is who you really are. And the danger, again, in doing this is the danger in losing the real you while you're doing this on a consistent basis. And not being able to get back to, or even understand, or never even having developed who you actually are. Particularly if you go into prison early and you start learning how to do that.
Yeah, but most of the real shot callers inside and I'm not saying all, but I would say the majority seem like real decent people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't act big bad, any of this thing. They work their way up. You know, you don't come in and be a shot caller.
Mm-hmm.
Takes you years to work your way up to who you are. But like I say, most of them that I knew, and I knew a lot of them.
Well, you know, one of the things I will say this. I always have this statement. I learned it from I think it might have been Derrick Rose from the Chicago Bulls. I think it was, and his father told him, "The way you do anything is the way you do everything." So there are people that I know that even in doing the wrong thing, have a code of ethics about themselves. That there's a way that you do right and a
Like
way
you
you
said,
do wrong.
He wouldn't rob a woman.
Right.
He wouldn't
There's
hurt
some
the
principles
kids,
that they will
things like
stand
that.
on, right?
Yeah.
So, and I have found in doing all of the hardcore gang intervention that I did, that those people, those guys who were the generals and the shot callers on the street, they had that same personality you're talking about. One of the things about being a leader is that the being a leader means you got to know how to follow and listen too. And you got to be able to, in order to get people to reel them in, to get them to trust you, you got to be able to listen to them, take somebody else's advice, and all of those things. You can't just run roughshod over everybody, because you can bully people for a period of time, and that will work if you just got the brute force to be able to do it. But then at a certain point, it comes a time when a situation comes up when the hammer ain't gonna work. And if you don't have the ability to find something else that you can do that will get, that you can use, or another way to use your influence, or another way to get people to trust you, you wind up losing control and making people so frustrated and angry at you that they want to turn on you. They turn on you and they want to take you out.
So the value of having the discussion about mask is you can be found suitable for parole and you can be released and returned back into society, but not resolve the issues of many of the reasons why you put on many masks. Because parole is just about a dialogue. Suitability is about a conversation with some people, and that's it. And if that day they feel a certain way, they go your way, right? But when many parolees come home, and a lot of the characteristics that originally initiated them putting on masks or putting on certain facades, they've yet to resolve those things. And you can't genuinely successfully transition from parole to a citizen in free society unless you relinquish some of the causative factors why you put on masks, though. I mean, to the degree that you can remove those obstacles or masks, you'll have a better quality of life. You'll have a better person, because you can be free and still have these issues that underline your anger. And given a particular situation on the street, you could become just as angry at someone and just as willing to hurt someone on the street as you would being in prison.
Let me ask you something. It used to really piss me off. I ain't talking about lifers. I'm talking about these guys who get 5 years, 7 years. They do 3 or 4 and they get out. You know, I mean, they have to let them out. And you would see that guy on the yard and he's fixing to go home. And this fool said, well, I'll see you in 6 months. You know, it's like they're going out on a vacation and then coming back to the joint. And that used to piss the shit out of me. You know, I'm trying like hell to get out, can't get out. These fools can get out and don't want to stay out.
Well, they do. They have a mask on, so that's how they end up back in prison.
So I've been to prison before I did I've been going to prison I've been going to jail since I was a kid. Right?
Me too.
So I've never really heard anybody say, yeah, man, I'll be back in 6.
Oh, I have.
I see them come back, but I never heard anybody say, hey, I'll see you in 6 months. But what I always try to do is I always approach everything with empathy, right? Because I say, look, long before I got a life sentence, I had been in prison like 4 or 5 times. Long before you became a long-term offender, you have been terrible.
From the time I was 11 till the time I got out, 5 years ago, or almost 5. I had only been 5 years on the street, and 3 of that was running. You know what I'm saying?
How many times did you go in and come out though?
Before that.
Not a hell of a lot. I would,
At least twice.
oh hell yeah, but
So the same sentiment though. Like my dad used to ask me that. Like, damn, when you gonna get tired of this? You know what I'm saying? When you gonna get tired of this? And I didn't get tired of it though.
you know what it was like you said, I did not have the fear. You know what keeps people out of prison and kids out of juvenile hall and all that is the fear of it. Not saying all of them, but I'm saying the average guy was a law-abiding citizen. He has a fear of going to prison because of movies, this and that, and different things. But once you've been in the system, like I started in juvenile hall, everybody did 30, most 90 days. I did 3 years. I went to the youth authority. 9 months continuous, everybody got out before 9 months. I did 3 years. I went to Alabama. My mom wanted to get me away from here. Where did I end up going? To prison in Alabama. I come back out here because I'm running from the people in Alabama because I was on parole and I met some dude up. I've always been running from the law or being incarcerated. And like when I got the last time, the 15 to life, I did 36 on it. And it wasn't far as they were concerned that I was a bad person. I've always thought because I worked so hard and did my job, and they knew I did my job, was one reason they kept me in prison.
Oh, well, I've told you that before. Let me tell you something. The only reason they kicked you out when they did is because your back was no good and they couldn't use you as slave labor no more.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. You saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars
Millions.
in labor, right? Millions over the year, the length of time. But this is the thing. I want you to go back to finishing your point about the fact that when you come out and trying to move forward, you can't really move forward realistically until such time as you take off all of that mask. Because the thing of it is that you're gonna always run up against, eventually the real you is gonna sneak out.
Of course.
Right? The real is gonna come to a head. No matter how you cut it, no matter what you think, no matter how much you perpetrate, whatever, at some point, the real you is going to come out. It's going to be exposed. And oftentimes it's exposed by somebody that's close to you. So like when they challenge you on, why did you do it? Oh, wait a minute, hold up. No, then you either got to start gaslighting.
Right.
You got to start blaming. You got to start deflecting.
Right.
You got to start doing a whole bunch of other things, which require you to put on other masks. Right. Which is why those masks.
Questions completely.
Right.
Answer the question with a question. You know, you want to, like you said, gaslighting. You want to keep flip-flopping back and forth, but you never answer the questions because it sounds like what narcissism.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I still think I'm the same person I was before I went into prison.
Well, that's the thing. That was the point that I was trying to make, though.
The only difference is I don't carry a gun no more.
But this is the thing. This is why I was saying a minute ago is that there are elements that you're going to always be the same. Even in doing wrong, there are people that there are certain principles. So this is why oftentimes people who have done wrong for a long period of time, when they get ready to do something right, they can transition into that because there was that element in them that was good. There are people who, even in doing wrong, there are people in hoods that ain't never been shit. Okay, they always been backstabbing, slimy, scheming, gang members, scheming each other, backstabbing, and all that stuff. And guess what? And they continue to do those things. So you are who you are. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And if you, and it, you know, I've often said this too. when I started doing gang intervention, I had been managing Little League football for 15 years. And a lot of gang-related families brought their kids to play football. And when they brought their kids to play football, they were not gang-banging over there playing football, okay? But as I started doing gang intervention, I went to a funeral, one of those families, huge families or whatever, and literally my two worlds collided in the same spot at the same time. If I had not been stand up in my football life over a 15-year period, my whole gang intervention work and everything would have come to a screeching halt because they would have found out that I was faulty. Okay. But I was always stand up with every family. It didn't matter where they came from or none of that stuff. And I wasn't focused on gang life at that time. I was focused on football. Now, I was hood enough to know, I'm from the projects, right? I was hood enough to know that, okay, they affiliated, this family's affiliated, oh, they from somewhere. You know, we had one coach we used to, which was so funny. His son was on my team, and when the coach came late, he would warm the kids up, and we would all be on the sideline laughing, going, "Look at them old penitentiary ass exercises." We knew he had been in the pen based on the kind of exercises that he had the kids do it. We knew that that was a thing, right? So, in other words, we knew that. But then, when I began to find out in my gang intervention life who all these people were, I literally had, again, both worlds collide, but it's because I would stand up in both places.
You said boundaries.
Yes, and always set boundaries with with everybody. It was always about those boundaries because that's the only way I could function. It's the only way that I could be effective in any way is to have those boundaries.
Yeah, it's just like I can go to any prison in the system.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem. There's not a prison I can't go to because I am who I am. I'm not a rat. I'm not a child molester. I don't fuck with punks. I don't shoot dope, but that doesn't matter because most of them do it anyhow. But that's not my thing.
And those are the things that, as you guys have said here before, that if you want to stay out of trouble in a prison, leave the punks alone, leave the drugs alone, leave the don't rat, and was it 3 or 4? Was it?
Don't rat.
Yeah. So those are the things that actually, you know, you guys have said that to us before, and I think it's worth mentioning again that those are the things that kind of keep you out of trouble. And don't borrow money or whatever was another one, right?
Right.
So those things and again, I think it's what you were saying earlier about you can survive prison, right? But the question becomes, how are you going to survive it? And more importantly for me, when you come out, who are you going to be?
Right.
Like, who you going to be now? And that's why I call it, when I wrote in my book, Hurt People Highway, I wrote in the book, I wrote about the identity crisis, because everybody's going to have that same identity crisis. The question is, who are you now?
Right.
Who are you today?
Anybody that's never even been to prison have identity crisis at times.
Yes.
Because life is changing.
Yes.
And you got to change with life.
Yeah.
So you will have an identity crisis with your own self.
Yes.
First. But you have to recognize that.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you got to acknowledge that something changed.
It's like this change, okay.
Or even the need for change.
Right.
Even the need for change. Some people don't even realize that what they're doing, even if they know it's not working and they're frustrated by it, they don't see a need for them to make a change. Right. They want to see you change. They want to see you change to fit in line with their process, but not so much for them to change to make the situation work.
Right.
So anyway.
I'm lucky. I feel good about myself.
Yeah. Well, and you know, and this is one thing I want to say too. Oh, you got family. We's it, sugar. You may not want us, but we's it, sugar.
I was gonna wait. I was gonna wait till the cameras were.
Okay, you was gonna let him have it, like all that stuff you talk.
I'm gonna bring up the phone. Like, see these photos?
Right. Yeah. No, we family. Yeah, we ain't playing with you like that. Anyway, Mr. Facilitator.
Yeah, the one point I wanted to make was the reason why I wanted to talk about mask is you can't really be successful in your transition unless you be genuine and authentic. You know, you really can't find a healthy relationship or maintain one unless you be genuine and authentic. you can find a good job. But again, though, it comes down to you being yourself, you being you. And a lot of times, unless somebody else tells you, hey, look, it's not possible to survive prison for a long period of time and not develop the capacity to wear different faces under different sets of circumstances. So coming out, we need to be, we start a dialogue about the fact that the way to get through prison, though, is to be able to shut down your emotions, shut down your feelings, shut down your thought life. There were things I couldn't think about in prison because they would interfere. I couldn't think about my family. I couldn't think about my kids. I couldn't think about the future because they would interfere with the demand that I needed to survive in that moment. And so one of the reasons I wanted to talk about mask is because it's essential for you to start just having a conversation with yourself. Only you know to what degree you put on a facade or to what degree you wore a mask. And that's a conversation you start with yourself. And at some point, if you're genuine, it's a conversation you don't mind and a dialogue you don't mind having with others. So that's the reason why I wanted to talk about wearing masks. And as the women tonight have pointed out, whether you're in prison or out of prison, we're a society where people wear masks every single day. That's the gist of social media. What you see on social media is not true. It's just masks and the personas that people are putting out there for a variety of selfish and self-centered reasons. So
and to feel better about themselves. So I want to give all my folks online, I want to give you an opportunity. Any final thoughts? And we'll start with you, Michael.
Yeah, I just want to say this was a very good subject matter, wearing masks. For me, I started wearing masks when I was very young. I think you was the one that mentioned it, Noreen. When you want your needs to get met, you start wearing masks because you want that acceptance, you want that affirmation, you want that love. So you begin to act a certain way to get it. And I started wearing masks and it lasted a long time to where I got lost in the mask and forgot who I was. And eventually I was able to understand that. And I was able to get back to who I was. And for a long time, the reason why I was locked in that mask is because I didn't like who I was. I thought I didn't like who I was because I thought I wasn't good enough. But once I realized that the person I was way better than the person I had became.
Than the mask guy, huh?
Yeah. I was able to get back to that. So that was a very good subject matter. We just need more time on it because it's too many levels to it.
Isn't that the truth? And listen, and what I will say is when you if you want to run it back, certainly next week when you check in, just take us back to it and we'll go right back to it, because again, this forum is for those of us to get healed. And if we got to stay on the topic for a couple of weeks and you feel like that's going to benefit us, just bring it back to us. This is not about us getting here and talking and just having something to say. That's not what we're doing this for. This is to produce healing and change so that we can move forward in our lives, that you can re-enter successfully and feel at peace with who you are, and anything we can do to help, that's what we're here for. So I appreciate that.
We can stop being robbed of our lives.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Mr. Diaz.
I just want to tell you guys, thank you. I like the topic. He took me back to CGA. To me, that was one of my hardest because I had to, like I said, I had to take it off to really start healing, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Totally awesome. Kid.
I wish I was a kid. I'm getting older.
Mr. O'Beal. Can you unmute? Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and give you any final comments.
Y'all ain't gonna like it, but
oh my goodness. This is why we don't like
that's
him.
Why we can't put you on the camera.
This is why.
Once again, tonight's topic was awesome. It was very good. I love talking about different stages of life that people have to go through that they're not willing to talk about, because the mask is what is something that everybody wears on an everyday basis. I appreciate the conversation tonight.
Thank you. Sir?
Yeah, I hope to continue the conversation because like the gentleman mentioned, there are various layers to that. And continuing that conversation those brings about healing. You know, not necessarily one session or one conversation, but a real thought out dialogue about that concept can bring a lot of restoration to people, and both mentally and emotionally though. So I do hope we can continue that discussion, and in the future as we move forward, enter into more discussions that are of equal quality there. And if you guys know any other people, invite them.
Yeah.
Invite them. Invite them to show up and spread the word about freedom to heal, because that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to invite as many people as I possibly can to come and share in this format that's unique. Like Noreen said, this is about us healing. This is about us getting to a place of freedom. Because only in doing that could you life is beautiful. It's tough, but life is beautiful. Sure is. But and so only in doing that can you really enjoy the privilege of freedom that we all have now.
Not being honest, you're being robbed.
And so I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and anybody out there on YouTube, Free to Heal is here. Please leave us comments, any topics that you want us to cover. Please let us know in the comment section. Reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, in all the platforms. You can find us there. And by all means, we hope to see you back here next week. And thanks so much, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Right.
Good night.